Hello, my name is Tiffany May, and today we'll be talking about understanding relational dialectics. Have you ever been torn between spending a lot of time with your partner and spending alone time? If you have this common issue in your relationship, this is called a conflicting desire. And understanding how to manage and communicate these conflicting desires will help you have a better and healthier relationship. Communication, as we know, is important in our entire life. We communicate with our bosses, our coworkers, with each other, and our boyfriends, or relationship for that matter. It's especially important for me to learn how to effectively communicate in my interpersonal relationships so that I can become a great friend and a great good girlfriend. Okay. The three main points of my speech today will be covering relational dialectics, just like a brief overview of what is a relational dialectic, why is it called that, and why it's an issue, communication and why it's important, and third, why we need to address these relational dialectics, why they should be acknowledged, and issues that come about if we don't. Sometimes we want two things that we can't have at the same time. This is called a conflicting desire or relational dialectic. Since relational dialectic is such a big word, I've used different words throughout the presentation to help other people understand it. So we can use relational dialectic or conflicting desire or opposing needs all interchangeably because they mean the same thing. So the first relational dialectic I will be going over is connection versus autonomy. I know that's a lot of big words, but we can break it down. It just means how close or distant you are in your relationship. So how much time you want to spend with that person. The second conflicting desire or relational dialectic is openness versus privacy. Openness versus privacy is basically how much you're willing to share or hide within your relationship. And the third one is predictability versus novelty. And again, big jumbled words, but basically it just means how predictable or how routine your life is versus how much spontaneous activities you want to include. Now that we've vaguely covered relational dialectics and we understand what are some common ones, we're going to move on to communication. So why is communication important? Well, we understand that it's vital in our lives and that we use it every day, but it's also important for conflict management, enriching our relationships, building a connection with new people and old, building trust, and expressing our needs, especially with the conflicting desires. Because again, conflicting desires are just opposing needs that just can't happen at the same time, that needs to be balanced. So now that we understand the importance and the potentials of good communication, such as building trust, better relationships, helping with conflict, let's move on to active listening. So active listening is key to communication. In the article by the state of Victoria, the author states, listening becomes vital for effective communication. This just goes to show that active listening is more important than we think in communication. Like, you may think that communication is about how well you're talking to other people, but listening, especially active listening, is extremely important to communicating well. Now that we have gone over relational dialectics vaguely, what they are, and communication, the importance of communication, and why it's important to actively listen in communication, we're now going to move on into a deep dive on the three common relational dialectics, focusing on the issues that may happen if they're not acknowledged. Again, the first conflicting desires, connection versus autonomy, the closeness or distance between a partner. In a 2021 NIH article, the author states too much connection and too much independence is bad. So too much connection in a relationship, too much time spent together will hinder your personal growth, while too much independence will not allow you to make a bond with each other. So it's important that we find a balance and that we acknowledge these relational dialectics, or they will cause problems in this relationship long term. For the second one, openness versus privacy, about how much you want to share versus how much you want to keep hidden. The book Exploring Relationship Dynamics describes open versus privacy as a battle between opening up and revealing everything about yourself. This is extremely important because you don't want to have one partner constantly wanting to open up and share the deepest, darkest secrets in their lives while the other person is closed off and is not comfortable doing that. It's important we find a balance between this conflicting desire or these opposing needs so that there's not this miscommunication that the other person is not interested in me or may not love me. Of course, the imbalance of these conflicting desires will just cause problems long term, create dissonance, and result in conflict in the relationship if not managed. The last conflicting desires I will be talking about is predictability versus novelty. This is basically, again, stability versus ambiguity. So like spontaneous ideas and plans. These are two really important needs. And I actually find this interesting because we see that stability and like having the same routine makes people comfortable, while introducing new things to your life makes you excited and keeps you interested in the relationship. So these are both really important needs, and it's very important that we balance this need so we still have that routine that one person may need, and they still feel comfortable in the relationship with that routine, while the other person is still getting that novelty and they're adding new things every once in a while. Okay. Now that we've understood relational dialectics as a whole, understand the importance of communication and why we must acknowledge relational dialectics or conflicting desires and the issues that may come about if we don't acknowledge them, we will be able to have happier and better relationships because we understand the importance of relational dialectics and why they must be applied to our life. By using the principles of relational dialectics, we can improve our communication and strengthen our relationships. Sometimes, the difference between a good relationship and a great one often lies in communication. Thank you. This is my audience.